Just before midnight on a rainy March 22nd, the tarmac at New York's LaGuardia Airport was completely enveloped by flashing red emergency lights. A regional passenger jet lay mangled on the active runway. Over the airport radio frequency, the panicked voice of a controller echoed on loop, shouting, "Stop, stop, stop, Truck 1, stop." In a matter of seconds, 2 pilots were dead, dozens of passengers were injured, and a heavy emergency vehicle was flipped onto its side. That single violent collision abruptly ended LaGuardia Airport's 34-year streak of fatality-free operations. Welcome to Azeem USA. Today, we are conducting a deep-dive forensic investigation into the catastrophic runway collision of Air Canada Express Flight 8646. If you appreciate this kind of rigorous step-by-step analysis, please consider supporting the channel. You can use the Super Chat and Super Thanks features below, or join as a channel member to help us keep producing these in-depth breakdowns. In an environment defined by redundant checks and constant communication, a single blind spot formed. Today, we need to see exactly how the choreography of a major international hub dissolved in under 60 seconds. This photograph shows a Boeing 737 MAX, the exact model of aircraft operating as United Airlines Flight 2384 that night. The disaster did not actually begin with the Air Canada jet, but with this United flight aborting its takeoff sequence on another part of the airfield. The United crew aborted their departure twice. They initially reported anti-ice warning indicators, but as they exited the runway, the situation escalated. The pilots radioed the tower to report a strange, strong odor from the rear of the cabin, making the flight attendants feel ill. This image highlights a red ARFF vehicle. ARFF stands for Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting, a specialized category of heavy, high-performance emergency vehicles designed to handle extreme heat and airport rescues. Because the United flight declared an emergency and no gates were available, the tower dispatched a convoy of these massive trucks straight across the active tarmac to assist the stranded passengers. This sudden influx of moving variables introduces a psychological hazard known as task saturation. Task saturation occurs when the volume and complexity of immediate demands exceed a human operator's cognitive capacity to process information accurately. Looking at this isolated ATC tower cabin, we can see where cognitive overload took hold. ATC stands for Air Traffic Control, the crucial ground-based personnel and systems responsible for directing aircraft movements to prevent collisions. According to operational reports, the controller managing the United emergency was working both the ground and tower frequencies entirely alone, a staffing shortfall exacerbated by an ongoing government shutdown. A minor mechanical issue and a strange smell required emergency medical response, stair trucks, and fire engines. Managing all of that created a severe cognitive bottleneck for the lone controller in the tower, setting a lethal trap for the Air Canada flight descending through the clouds. At 11:36 p.m., Air Canada Express Flight 8646, carrying 76 passengers, was cleared for its final approach. The jet was arriving 2.5 hours behind schedule from Montreal. The pilots were focused entirely on navigating through the mist and executing a safe landing roll on a dark, rain-slicked runway that offered reduced friction for their brakes. This animated diagram illustrates the converging paths. The blue line represents Flight 8646, descending toward runway 4, while the red marker indicates Truck 1 holding near taxiway Delta. The driver of Truck 1 requested clearance to cross runway 4 to reach the United passengers. Managing the medical evacuation on the other side of the airfield, the controller answered the radio. He explicitly instructed the fire truck to cross runway 4 at Delta. At 11:37 p.m., the passenger jet touches down. 20 seconds after granting clearance, the controller realizes the overlapping paths. He frantically yells, "Stop, stop, stop, Truck 1, stop!" It was too late. The Bombardier CRJ-900 jet, traveling at roughly 100 miles per hour, slammed directly into the side of the heavy fire truck. The sheer force of the impact destroyed the aircraft's cockpit and forward galley, while flipping the high-performance emergency vehicle entirely onto its side. Flight attendant Solange Tremblay, seated in a jump seat located just behind the cockpit door, was physically ejected from the aircraft. She was found on the tarmac shortly after, still strapped to her seat. She suffered multiple fractures but miraculously survived the ejection. Captain Antoine and First Officer Mackenzie Gunther took the full lethal brunt of the collision. Passenger testimony revealed that in the final seconds, the pilots executed extreme maximum braking maneuvers. Their reflexes in those final seconds helped keep the airframe from flipping or igniting, which allowed dozens of people to survive an impact that took the pilots' lives. While the structural integrity of the jet played a role, the reduction in speed from the pilots' braking is what prevented a higher energy crash. Their split-second actions in the cockpit ensured that 74 lives were saved, even as the systems meant to protect them failed. This photograph captures the NTSB GO team arriving on the scene hours later to secure the wreckage and extract the flight data recorders. The NTSB is the National Transportation Safety Board, an independent U.S. government agency charged with investigating civil transportation accidents. Here we see NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy, who directed the probe toward the failure of systemic safety nets. LaGuardia uses ASDEX, which failed to prevent the clearance. ASDEX is the Airport Surface Detection Equipment Model X, a runway safety system that uses radar and satellite technology to track aircraft and vehicles moving on the ground. While it sounded an alarm in the tower, it cannot predict or prevent a controller from verbally clearing a vehicle into danger. The crash intensified an ongoing industry debate regarding the absence of ADS-B-In displays in commercial cockpits. ADS-B-In is an automatic dependent surveillance broadcast receiver technology that allows pilots to see the real-time position of other traffic and ground vehicles directly on their cockpit displays. Having that technology would have given Captain Forrest and First Officer Gunther an independent warning that a truck was entering their runway. The human cost of the missing technology is captured in the post-crash audio. Minutes after the impact, the controller is heard telling another pilot, "I was here. We were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up." The nearby pilot responds with a quiet grace, saying, "Now, man, you did the best you could." Attributing the crash to a single controller overlooks a broader issue. The investigation shows what happens when high-traffic operations are maintained without the automated backups designed to catch human error. The collision has forced a renewed scrutiny of FAA staffing levels and the chronic shortage of certified controllers. The FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration, the primary U.S. government body that regulates all aspects of civil aviation. When commercial aviation relies exclusively on isolated human operators to perfectly manage dozens of multi-ton machines moving at high speeds, a single moment of cognitive overload will eventually end in tragedy. Thank you for joining me for this investigation. Today, we keep our thoughts with the families of Captain Antoine Forrest and First Officer Mackenzie Gunther, two aviators who gave their lives to protect the people sitting behind them. If you value this type of detailed, objective reporting, please consider leaving a super thanks, participating in our next live super chat, or joining the Azeem USA community as a channel member. I'm Azeem. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and I will see you in the next breakdown.